PV.
Huge thanks to our colleagues and friends back here from Fanshawe College who are going to be filming to make sure that this event can be televised. So we do have ground rules for today. I feel like I'm putting on my mom hat all of a sudden. It's like, here's the rules, gang, and this is these three up here that need to follow the rules. I will be drawing out the candidates' names from a little envelope, and that will determine the speaking order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their own opening remarks. The first candidate will draw from a hat and a question, and then they will be given 2 minutes to respond. The two other candidates who follow will have 1 minute for rebuttal. So we'll rotate who will be getting to start a question, and we'll make sure that we distribute that fairly evenly. Yeah, so we'll do that. Candidates, please make sure you speak clearly into the microphones because this is being recorded and for our audience to be able to hear you well. If you would prefer to pull them off, you can, I think, do handheld, so feel free to do that. Once we have had the completion of some of the prearranged questions from all of the partners that have helped organize this, we actually have some audience questions. If you did register for this event in advance, there was an invitation for you to submit questions. So we will be turning to some of those audience questions first to get some of those voices in, and then if we have time, we will be inviting some more questions from the audience that are here today. The request that we have is that if questions or a topic have been addressed, it's an opportunity to expand the conversation and maybe ask different questions so that you get a little bit more insight. So all of the and the candidates were provided with the questions in advance of this meeting so that they could prepare. So they are ready to answer the questions that we have identified for them already. One of the things that I also want to acknowledge is we are hearing from our city councilor candidates, but there are 2 candidates in the room who are running for the school board. And Beth May, and where's Beth? There she is, okay. And Beth, I know if you have some materials that you want to leave at the back. Beth, are you staying or do you need to go to another meeting?
There's another meeting tonight, Ward 10. I may try to go over in case there are any questions right at the end.
Okay.
Please reach, sorry, that's not loud enough. Please reach out to me if you want to chat, if I don't happen to be here at the end.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I can reach as many people in the community who are voting as possible.
Yeah, the school board trustees are in like sometimes 5 different wards. Yeah, so they have to pop around to all these meetings. The other school board trustee that's here is Sherry Moore. So Sherry's there. I know you've got some of your materials out. So again, you have an opportunity at the end if they're still here. Are you staying? Okay.
I did get a chance to at least make some eye contact with you. Please don't hesitate to look it up.
Yep, there you go. Great. So before we begin with the questions. Each of our candidates has 2 minutes to do an opening statement based on the draw. And so I'm going to do the draw of names, and that will determine the order for today. So not looking. They're really little. Okay. Our first is going to be Patrick. He's not here. So there we go. One of our candidates and one of the other candidates is Patrick O'Connor, and he's not here. So our first speaker will be Colleen McCauley, and second will be Steve Lehman, and our third will be Sarvinder Dohel. Okay, so Colleen, if you want to start us off with your 2-minute opening comments, please, and please pay attention to Selma, the timekeeper. Thank you.
So first, I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me to be here today and for all of you for attending. I appreciate all the organizers' time that they put in. I have a strong desire and passion to help develop a more sustainable city, and I stepped forward as a politician this year to be part of the needed changes. London is growing fast and needs good planning for that growth. Our economy needs to support local jobs and business. We need many safe and alternative ways for people and supplies to get around the city to the homes, neighborhoods, schools, business, and nonprofit organizations. We also need pathways for our wildlife too, so we can maintain biodiversity within our borders and beyond. Our planning needs to include housing options for all types of different life stages. We must enhance the social and emergency services to serve the growing community needs, especially for the most vulnerable populations. As London grows, we have more waste to manage, and our landfill site does not have the space to deal with that. We also need to keep trash out of the Thames River. We must divert waste from all buildings and our activities. If we are to keep the forest in the forest city, we need to better protect our natural environment. To achieve this, we must work towards equity and inclusion through language and transparency, and our city leaders must foster tolerance and understanding of different approaches, even if we do not agree on a decision. Our actions should improve our city as a whole and align with global sustainability goals. If we want to see positive change, we need to be the change for a sustainable community too. I'd be honored to be your Ward 8 councillor to help build a more sustainable London. On October 24th, I ask you to vote for me, Colleen McCauley. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. And Steve, if you want to go next.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. Local politics, unfortunately, gets the least attention amongst the three levels of government, but it's the one that impacts our daily lives the most. We've had 3 elections within the last 12 months, so there is a danger of voter tiredness, to put it frankly. So thank you for taking an interest. Brief bio on me. I'm originally from Waterloo, from a family of 7. I was the only person in my family fortunate enough to go to university. I attended Western, and after Western went to Toronto. Lived there for a few years. Toronto was not the place where I wanted to raise a family, so the choice was to either go back to Waterloo or to London. I chose London, and that was the best decision I ever made. I love this city. Look, this is a very exciting time to be in London. It's the fastest growing city in Canada, and also leads the country in job creation per capita for medium and large sized cities, with 40,000 jobs created in the last 4 years. We've got cranes in the sky. Recently been chosen as by UNESCO City of Music. And we're in the top 10 of emerging tech markets in North America. We are 422,000 people, and I expect we'll hit 500,000 by the end of this decade. This is exciting, but this is also challenging because we're on the cusp of becoming a big city, which brings challenges that we're going to be talking about tonight. Homelessness, affordability, mobility. I believe I have the experience both in the private sector and the political sector as well to lead the change required and to address these challenges on your behalf. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Sarvinder.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much to inviting us here. My name is Sarvinder Singh, and I'm working with London Transit as a ticket clerk. I'm doing with the community work as a Guru Nanak Mission Society, and from 2018, we're working as a volunteer, and we're serving meal all the time. So till today, we're working as a volunteer. And my education, I'm post-graduation as a diploma business management and marketing management. And I'm really happy to serve as a community, as a servant. And I have some issues with transportations, clean and green Ward 8. And my goal is it is not the next election, it is the next generation. I care for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to come around and we get to pick a question. So Colleen, you will be picking the first question. So
Again, put me on the spot here. Okay, which one is that one? Who's for you? Sure, I'm just trying to.
All righty. So first question, and just again, just to make sure, Colleen, you'll get 2 minutes on this, and Sarvinder, and it will be Steve, then Sarvinder, each 1 minute to respond. Here's the question. It's in the topic of belonging. This is the first municipal election since the June 6th Islamophobic murder of the Asfal family that was so devastating to this community. What is City Council's role in combating Islamophobia, and how do you plan on participating as a City Councillor? Colleen, 2 minutes.
All right, so I believe it is everyone's responsibility to help combat Islamophobia, racism, and all hate crimes. For equity and social justice, we need to actually listen to those communities and listen to the individuals that are impacted and seek the ways to better solve those the issues for those populations. Inclusivity is about meeting people where they're at and where they are, what they need to be, to feel they can belong. As a city councillor, I think it's our responsibility to be the leaders and to start actually presenting how we want to see our city. So we should be part of the cultural awareness, part of the events, and then making sure that we are stepping forward every time something happens that we need to bring attention to. Part of that is making sure that we have empathy and sympathy for those that are experiencing, and making sure that we do not let those incidents be not understood. And so one of the things that I did was look at attending different events to understand that different community. So I attended the Muslim Lifestyle Show. I've attended the One London Family event and here in the school, as well as I recently went to the Doors Open at the mosque. I think that's part of understanding what is happening, making sure that people get around and see these different communities in how they are interacting with our communities and what we need to do for them. Okay, that's fine.
Thank
You'll find
you.
I tend to be short.
Steve, you get 1 minute. You don't get 1 minute 30. I'm just going to say we're not sharing the extra time people don't use. So I'm not feeling generous that way today, because I've got my mom hat on and we're following the rules.
Thank you. You know, in the first year of council, I was the only councillor to attend an invitation and presentation by Faisal Joseph, who spoke at the Western Law School on hate and Muslim experience in Canada. I've since grown to a good friendship with Faisal. I was shocked that 3 years later we experienced the murder of the Afzal family right in our backyard. I learned two things. One is on Wednesday, when all the politicians were there, I chose to speak with our neighborhoods that were lining Oxford Street, and I learned the love of London for the different community. I attended the funeral where I saw 4 coffins draped with the Canadian flag, and I learned of the Muslim community extending a hand to Londoners. So I think there's a good respect for both communities, London and Muslim areas, but we have to be vigilant to address hate crime in this city.
Great. Thank you, Steve. And Sarvinder.
It is not, thank you very much for the question. It is not only the council role, it is all of our role to make everyone feel safe. I am committed for the well-being of the community, as well partner with the faith-based communities for the unity. I am a multi-community person. I have turban, but I go to the Sikh temple, I go to the mosque, we prepare food in a church, I go to Hindu temple, other place for workplace, because I'm a unified person. My neighborhood belongs to different religion too. My experience, my passion, and my belief to make sure Islamophobia doesn't exist. We need to be unified, bringing the community together and work on breaking the barrier for misunderstanding and misunderstanding. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Question 2. Steve?
I think it's more nerve-wracking to make us pick.
All right. This question is on the topic of governance. And Steve, you'll have 2 minutes, and then Sir Vivinder, you will have 1 minute, and then Colleen. What are the 3 most important city services to maintain and grow? Explain why you picked these services. Steve.
Thank you. By far, the number 1 issue for me is homelessness, driven by mental health and addiction services. I've spent a lot of time with folks that live rough, and I learned from that experience. They live on a 24-hour cycle, primarily of fear. In the evenings, they take uppers to stay awake, so their stuff isn't stolen. In the daytime, they take other narcotics just to get them through the day. They don't think about anything farther than 24 hours. It's important that we address this as a city. Unfortunately, health issues lie with the provincial government. We experienced 2 London psych hospitals and St. Thomas Psych closing with 750 beds lost. We have 150 beds in LHSC now to deal with mental health. Where are the 600? I think we see that in our streets. We have to make a concerted effort. And as a councillor, I intend to make this a number 1 issue with the incoming mayor and with new council, and to engage our partners not only at City Hall but also around London with our emergency services, LHM, the hospitals, and to speak with one voice to the province to make it clear that we need, at the end of the day, a facility built in London to properly treat those suffering on our streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Sabarinder?
Yes, as per my 3 most important things, safety. I'm working with the London Police to enhance more safety, especially for the children and the seniors. Transportation, accessibility to remote area and support local businesses. Recreation and sport, increase the availability of area to the local group and increase more physical activities. Thank you.
Thank you. And Colleen?
So for the most important services that I see, obviously, affordable housing and homelessness are key for a lot of the ward residents that I've spoken to. The safety of our neighborhoods and our businesses are impacted by those, so those services need to go towards those people to make sure that we can also enhance the neighborhoods. Secondly, transportation is something that comes up constantly, where people need to get around the city and supply in a safe manner as well as quickly, and can continue low impacts. Growth means we need to move more, so we need to make sure that we address that issue. And lastly, as I already mentioned, waste diversion and reduction. We are expanding and opportunities. There are different ways to look at regenerative growing. Urban agriculture is one concept that we need to look at that would address a lot of different issues in our city, and also ways that we can grow at home and deal with different ways to get out of our waste landfill. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay. Another question gets to be picked.
Thank you, Madam White.
Okay. We're getting a good range of questions. This one is about the environment. London's resource recovery strategy proposes a 60% waste diversion target. The Green Bin program is expected to help reach this goal. What are some other ways we can meet this target? Savarindo.
As per I know, the Green Bin program has been successfully in many cities, and I believe it's really important for us to understand, learn, and create awareness to the community and recycle compost wasted. Not only the city level, I also have planned to involve residential to it at individual level to contribute to this initiative, as it is all of our responsibility. Thank you.
Great. We'll go to Colleen.
Thank you for the question. In terms of waste management, it is prevention and reduction strategies that are needed. We need to redefine the waste and find ways to use before it becomes trash. People need to know ways to dispose of unwanted items. There are ways to look at one, we need food, we need to address fashion waste, we need to address different things in our homes, and finding ways to make sure that that is reused in our society before it ends up in the landfill site. And even before that, we need to look at different ways. One of the key things I see is that there are not enough programs for our multi-unit buildings. We need ambassadors to look at ways to deal with energy conservation as well as waste management in all of those buildings, and in addition to different ways to compost and reduce food waste in the home. The other thing I look at is in terms of buildings, in terms of commercial buildings. So recycling and construction and renovation materials in homes and buildings, and creating that circular economy where waste is not waste becomes the last resource. We are looking at everything that we use as much as we can before we consider that landfill site. Thank you.
Thank you. And Steve.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important to have a robust waste avoidance strategy. What do we put into our curbside pickup for garbage? We have to look for more ways to get folks to look at recycling. Council is on the verge next meeting. I'm expecting to pass a policy where we'll eliminate picking up ceramic toilets and sinks. And you'll be surprised to know that 50 of those are left at the curbside each day. It's 12,000 a year. They'll be forced to go to our local waste environment depots where they can be recycled. I think we have to continue on with those strategies, looking at what folks are putting out at the curb.
Thank you. Okay, we go back to our little basket. Colleen?
Who really wants a question?
All right, we're back into the topic of governance. Councillors are elected by people in their ward to represent their interests, but City Council as a whole makes decisions that impact the entire city. On occasion, these interests may conflict with the priorities of your constituents. What do you see as the balance between representing your ward and the city as a whole? Colleen, you'll start with 2.
Thank you for the question again. I think it's important to listen to the constituents of Ward 8 and understand what those issues are that matter to them and connect those interests to the city as a whole. How we might get balance between those decisions that have to be made to the direction and improve the situation for all. So if there is an issue that doesn't align with Ward 8, that's what is looking for. We need to look at what the trade-offs can be and how to reduce the impact on Ward 8, but also make sure that it's still is for the betterment of the city as a whole. I believe in win-win situations wherever possible. So pushing the issue forward, finding the different aspects, finding others that believe in the same situations and bringing those forward. We need to look at the different ways where when there's a pushback, we need to actually see what the duty of the decision is for the benefit of the city as a whole, and to pass issues through different municipal staff as whatever directions required. If the decision is made that does not account for all aspects, then it falls to the ward and the city to re-review different situations to make sure they are in the benefits. I have spoken to constituents who have felt that there's a situation with the city building that is not taking the ward's consideration under advisement. And what I understand is there's a lot of different aspects like traffic and safety and sewage and our vulnerable communities that were disregarded in the decision that was made. So we need to look at, yes, is the city making a decision trying to move things forward quickly, but are they making a decision based on one quick move, or are they making a decision that actually accomplishes their sustainability goals? Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, to you, 1 minute.
Thank you. I think the best way to answer this is with an example of how, I wore two hats during my term. When COVID first hit, the Oak Ridge Arena was the first assessment center in southwestern Ontario. I don't know if you folks remember, by that time there was a lot of fear and misunderstanding about COVID. The impact on that neighborhood was huge. So my city hat was that we needed this assessment center. My ward councillor hat was that I had to hear what the folks were saying and mitigate the impact on their neighborhood by working with school boards, police, city staff, and Middlesex London Health Unit, where we're able to find and make significant change in the operation. Now, for example, we had 1,000 cars coming every day, lined up for 2 kilometers into the city, safe, unsafe for kids walking around. We were able to work and get them to develop an app, so for online appointments, so that people only showed up when their appointment was ready.
All right, Severino.
Thank you very much. I will do whatever will be the best interest of my ward and the entire city. I will talk to the represent division and plan toward the long-term action. It is very important to transmit with the community, and that's one of my area of focus as well. And I need to be clear between me and my communities. Thank you.
All right. Steve? We've already heard a few references to housing, and this is specifically a housing question. The federal government's new National Housing Plan aims to cut chronic homelessness by 50% in the next 10 years. Currently, London faces critical challenges in providing safe, adequate, affordable housing. What role do you see the municipal government taking to help achieve the 50% reduction? Steve, you'll start with 2 minutes.
Thank you. When you hear affordable housing, there's many aspects of affordable housing fall what I would consider 3 slots. First thing is sheltering with safe wraparound services. And that's to deal with folks living on the street, living rough, to get them in a shelter with the social services they need. The next is what I would say is people that are struggling to afford space. They're the working poor. London has 3,000 units in our London housing. Most of these are rent geared to income. For the first time in 50 years, we are adding units and building units. We've built 60 units so far and 40 are in the progress. We need to continue to build more units by using existing footprints for those that need refurbishing and by going up in the same footprint with the infill philosophy. And finally, affordability. What people do think is for people trying to get their first house after renting an apartment. We know with housing prices going skyrocketing and now interest rates going high, we wonder if our kids are ever going to find a home. The answer to this is we have to increase supply to meet demand. COVID has exposed weaknesses in many areas in many organizations, companies, and at City Hall. I think with the unprecedented amount of building applications overwhelming our planning department, we've seen that the planning department is in desperate need of efficient upgrades and embracing technology where we can track applications as they proceed through the system, getting things built quicker so that we can meet that demand and see the rise in housing prices slowly subside where we can afford our kids getting homes.
Thank you, Steve. Sarparinder?
Thank you very much. London Municipal has taken various steps to reduce homelessness. However, serious action are required. Only target people as if now are adult with the special needs, people with the disability, which is great. But my question is, where is the plan for the struggling families, single parents, young people losing job due to the stress, newcomers to the cities? Everyone is looking for the safe and affordable housing. We need to identify the root cause with the strong in that study to achieve the reductions and slowly end the homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you. And Colleen?
Thank you. Homelessness, I don't see it as the issue, I see it as the symptom. The housing crisis is also a supply, not just a supply issue, it is how we use it and the equity issue as well. So we need better use of our existing spaces and developed land. We need to address the gaps between the social services and improve partnerships with the various grassroots organizations serving our vulnerable communities and neighborhoods. We need to look at policies and programs that address vacancies, infill housing builds without impeding upon our environmentally sensitive areas and farmlands, and while considering those vulnerable populations. I see it as a partnership between federal and provincial government offices and agencies to get the housing we need to build the new housing, as well as upgrade our existing buildings and homes. And lastly, to address the regulations that encourage speculations in our real estate market, as well as our affordable rentals and shelters for the temporary homes that we see for different things. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. We've done 5 of the pre-arranged questions. I now want to honor that some of you on registration, you asked some questions. So I just want to say, and Sarver, you will be the first person to answer.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the question, I'm also wanting to make sure we have some diversity of questions that have not yet been asked. There's a question here about Ward 8 becoming too car-centric, and the concern about pedestrians and cyclists and safety, but also the bottom line is, it's also concerned about impact on the environment. But the question is, how will candidates address the problems of traffic congestion, and what do they propose to reduce to lessen car dependency in Ward 8? So if you could start us off with 2 minutes.
Thank you very much for the questions. There is a different way I think we can make safe and if you don't mind, I forgot the question as well. If you don't mind,
Yes.
please have fun.
Yep, I'll restate it. So how will you address problems of traffic congestion, and what do they propose to reduce and lessen car dependency in Ward 8?
Yes. For the traffic-wise, I remember where I live right now, and my friend live. But there is we looking for a different stop sign, and we looking for. When there is a stop sign, we need the lights as well, and there is I'm gonna pass this question. I'm sort of confused about that question. I don't want to say my statement is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Sorry
okay.
about that.
That's okay. Thank
Yep.
you. So we'll go to Colleen next. 1 minute.
Thank you. So thank you for the question again. So in terms of addressing congestion, one of the big things and high priority for me is to look at public transit as our critical importance across the city. We see higher demand for mobility and comes from population growth and expansion. I would like to see housing developments that incorporate ways for residents to access transportation options that are alternative to cars. Every time we grow, we need to look at different ways to get people around. So on-site bike racks, protected walkways, and in getting the bike paths between neighborhoods so that this serves more cyclists of all different ages. Our biking infrastructure also needs to be consistent in design across the city. We have a lot of on-road in certain areas, and other areas we have some behind-the-scene bike paths. I've heard of bike paths that are not being kept up either. So if we are going to have people getting around the city in different ways, we need to make sure that we put an emphasis on the ways to get around. Pedestrians also need to be protected, so we need to make sure that we are not just forcing them to use bag buttons to get across and then trying to run across really quickly. We need to make sure that we get traffic to understand we need to share the road safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen and Steve. 1 minute.
Thank you. And this is one of the challenges I was speaking about as we become a big city, is how we get around. City Hall is working on a master mobility plan that will address those questions for all modes of traffic throughout the city. I'm especially interested, obviously, in the West End. For transit, we need solutions that will actually show a benefit enough to get folks out of their car and consider mass transit as an alternative. What has been passed is we see a bottleneck at Warrencliffe and Oxford. That solution that will be in the next year or two. The work will get on there. We have the TVP, which provides great bike paths. We need to make sure we have access down to that. Bowler Bridge is on my radar. I'm working with engineering to get Bowler Bridge included in the master mobility plan because it's impossible to have safe bike access or pedestrian access across that bridge. And as we see increased north-south traffic, access to TVP, that's a critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be addressed.
Thank you so much. So this is another question, and it's really going to give a simple, very high level. What will you do to improve economic development in London? Colleen, you can start us off. I'm actually going to go to 1 minute for all of you, just because I want to make sure we also will get audience questions, so just a little shorter there. So what will you do to improve economic development? If you can answer this magically in 1 minute, all of you, more power to you.
Okay. So one of the things that I look at is how we can address supporting local jobs and businesses. If we are trying to get more economic development, one of the things that we can do is look at what kind of things are standing in the way or that are not supporting the local businesses so that they can get jobs and get people in those jobs. I know quite a bit about I'm hearing so much about small businesses can't find someone to fill a job regularly, and I'm hearing a lot about skills gaps that I also think that there is an equity issue more than a skills gap issue. There are women in their 40s, very highly educated, not getting jobs even at an administrative level. And they're being passed over, and yet we're still saying there's this disconnect. So if we're going to make sure that there's this lack of disconnect, or we make better use of those that are within our city. We also have a lot of newcomers coming to the city. They have skill sets. We need to make sure they are connected to the services to get them out in the communities and connect with our businesses.
Great. Thank you. And Steve?
Thank you. We're fortunate in London to have London Economic Development Corporation, which is fully funded by our city. I believe it's the importance of councillors to partner with those folks at LEDC, like I have. So recently I attended a meeting with LEDC, with the executives at Diamond. Our aeronautic division industry is growing. And as was said earlier, there is a significant job gap. They're looking for trained professionals. I can use my relationship with Beard Devlin at Fanshawe and at Western to make sure they're aware of those needs as they educate our youth. Also attended our exploratory meeting with executives of Boeing that are looking at this region. It's important for them, and they said after the meeting that they saw political support for that industry, their company specific, to come to London.
Thank you. So, Savarinder, again,
Yes.
what can you do to, or what will you do to improve economic development in London?
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. First of all, I can meet with the multicultural people representative and see how we can create the small jobs and how we can, there is a really expensive renting right now issues because small businesses, they starting from the home, but they want to go out. They want to start business as a commercial, but somehow their rent is so expensive they cannot. I can work with them. I can talk with them, and then we can try to give them opportunity to start business. Then it's a help for the middle class families. Thank you.
Thank you. This question will start with Steve. And this one is more about community engagement. It's a question from Dana, and community events and engagement is an important topic. What ways you want to bring the community together, families with young children? Different ways, like what kinds of community events and ways would you like to create experiences so that young children and families have events and programs to reach their full potential? So Steve, we'll start with you.
Thank you.
1 minute.
This winter, myself and two constituents put considerable time in getting first Canada Day celebration to be had in recent memory at Oak Ridge Park, resulting in 1,200 folks attending, where we provided, subsidized barbecue, live entertainment, et cetera. What I'm most excited about is how to involve the community and multicultural communities as well. Through a conversation I had with a constituent, the germ of my idea is what I'm calling the London Friendship Pavilion, which I've already explored with staff and they're excited about. The first spot would be at Springbank Park, where on certain days we'd invite folks that are interested in meeting folks of other communities and multicultural groups to picnic with them, learn more about each other's experience. Kids can play together and share food. Those are the type of community experiences I will continue to support.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Surrender?
Yeah. We create different multicultural event. I talk to most of every week with them, and we get together with the different multicultural faith peoples, and we create program. We talk to them, and we have other coming program as well, which is stress relief, because a lot of newcomers and a lot of issues we have in different communities now. So we can get together and. As per I do right now, well, within every week, we get together and try to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I want to honor some of you in the audience. You may have some questions, and would invite you, if you would like to ask a question, if you could please stand and speak very loudly, just so that we can hear the question. So does anybody here have a question that you would like to ask one or all of the candidates? And if you are asking it to a specific candidate, if you can identify that. If it's to all, please identify. So could you stand up?
Sure. I could say many things or ask many things, but I'll just say this. Ask a question. Does anybody here get the sense that the issue of public transit is being diverted through the issue of bicyclists? Because I don't believe there's very many people using bicycles as a percentage of the population in trips. And is this not maybe a cover for the fact that the mass transit in London is extremely poor? And should that not be the number one priority?
So the question is...
Should not mass transit, effective mass transit, be the number one priority and bicycle issue way down the list?
Okay. So Colleen, let's start with you.
Can I
Yes.
answer the previous question? I didn't forget to answer the last question.
I'm so sorry. Okay, we'll come back to you. I am so sorry,
No,
Colleen.
sorry.
I was getting them.
I was trying to flag you down.
Yeah, so sorry. Okay, yes. So,
So I'll make it quick because
community events, families, and children. Sorry about that.
All right. So in terms of community events and family and children, one of the things that was brought up to me was there was not a lot of events here in Ward 8, and one particular constituent talked to me about the potential for an outdoor rink during the winter time. So there's a lot of things that we get drawn down to go to, but there's not a lot in our communities. I'd like to see some more of the arts and the music's events kind of like spotted around the city. So I know that I attended the Close to the Edge that was in Springbank, and that was a beautiful opportunity. Those little pop-up opportunities come across the city, and especially throughout the wards in different parks and different areas. So that's I'll leave that on that one.
Thank you, and I apologize.
No worries. I just wanted to get it in there.
Jumping ahead.
So in terms of mass transit, transit is my number one priority. That is, mass transit is part of the broader perspective. So yes, we need to get more people out of the cars, and so that mass transit is going to be part of that. Bicycling should not be the primary focus. I don't think it is the primary focus. I think it is an alternative that we need to look at, and so that people can, go out in the evening and have a bike ride with their children, and go out and, just to go to a friend's or go to their workplaces. So that those have to be an option, and mass transit should be something that we look at for the largest routes to get more congestion off the roads. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And to Steve?
Thank you, and thank you for the question. I think you're right. I think cycling has its roots, and we look to Toronto. Toronto has a very different climate than we do. We're in the snow belt 5 months of the year. We have snow. Toronto has a few snow days. There are folks that do use cycling more often downtown, but I don't think there's too many from Oak Ridge going downtown on their bikes. The ones that do use the TVP. I agree the focus should be put back on transit. The challenge with council is that we do not control the London Transit Commission. It's a separate body. We fund them. I can advocate on behalf of my constituents, but that's as far as I can go. Is that the right model for London? I don't know. The PUC was brought in-house many years ago. Should we look at perhaps doing the same thing with our Transit Commission so they have more direct accountability with council and also with our planning department as we plan new neighborhoods?
Great.
Yeah, thank you very much for your questions. I agree with you for the transportations. I agree with almost as the cycling as well. But yeah, I agree with you, but I can back to you and let you more talk to you after that, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? And if you do have a question, I'm actually going to invite you to come over here and speak it into the mic so it can be a part of what's heard. So are you willing to come up here?
You will hear me.
Oh, you know what? So the problem is we can't get the feed and it's being televised. And so it's, if you can bottom line it, I can say it.
You don't want to hear me then. Please help with this.
Oh,
All right. I'm John, and
I'll repeat it.
related to the bicycling and transportation issue. We've spent a huge amount of money on bicycle lanes and all the rest. I walk on a regular basis, and I also ride a bicycle. There are way too many bicyclists who don't seem to care too much about the rules of the road. I've not seen one bicyclist yet who actually will go one block without committing some sort of violation. My point is that we should enforce the no bicycles on sidewalks, but we really need to educate people on how to ride safely and make sure that those rules are enforced.
So John, if you have a question, what's the question our candidates are answering?
All right, good point.
Yeah.
So, all right. Candidates, what is it that you might do, if anything, to improve bicycle operation? Yeah, operation of bicycles.
So candidates, what will you do to improve the operation of bicycles and safety? And it sounded like just adhering, making sure people are following the rules, I guess. Yeah, okay. Steve?
Thanks, John, for that question. I feel your frustration. I tour the areas where we have put up protected bike lanes and spent a lot of money, quite frankly, on instituting what we think people are asking for, and nothing frustrates me more than seeing cyclists going down the middle of the road or on sidewalks beside those protected bike lanes. There's 2 points, I guess, to your question, or I guess in response to your question, is education and enforcement. On the education side, I think the city can do a better job now that we have more protected bike lanes on educating cyclists on how they can take advantage of that for their own safety, quite frankly, plus others, especially pedestrians. And then enforcement. Enforcement is part of the Highway Traffic Act, which falls under the police. It's something that I can speak to when I meet with the police chief on a regular basis.
Savarinder?
Yes, thank you very much, John. I think you are right. Cycling need to be educated them, and city needs some make some safety laws for the cycling, and definitely they need to be educated as well. Yeah, I'm agree with you 100%. I know that a lot of cycling I personally seen, they are on the road, and it's really hard to sometime, to when I drive personally. But I'm agree with you, they need to be educated, yes. Thank you.
Colleen?
Thank you, John, for the question. As a person who's lived in this area for 12 years, I have cycled, I have walked, and I have seen many people who who are on the sidewalks in their bikes, and sometimes I have to step off because they won't. I understand the frustration of that, and which is why I think we need safer cycling on the sides. Along Oxford there, that lane for the bike rides is barely ever used. It's something that we need to look at. I like the one where it is a pathway beside the sidewalks. However, it is an education issue about sharing the road, sharing the spaces, being respectful for everybody in the area, and making sure that we all look at how we get around and make sure they are respectful of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, seeing if anybody in the audience has additional questions. Yes, can you come up and are you willing to speak in?
Hear me too.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you can be, sorry, if you can be very precise in the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the things that we've talked about from transportation and biking is we forgot about the aging process of the population. Population is getting older, and they're not about the bike in a four-season community like this. Okay, so we should change our emphasis here. We're looking at, well, how are you going to treat this aging process? Okay, as opposed to just pushing the bike, going mass transit.
So is your question specifically around what will these candidates do to address the aging population in London?
What I'm thinking is we need a new strategy.
New strategy for aging in London. What will you do, candidates? What's your ideas? And Sarvarinder, you will start.
Personally, I can, senior people, I can put free rides.
Sorry, say that again.
What's your question?
Specifically around what will you do for the aging population in London? Not necessarily related to transportation, just, you know, with the aging population in the city, what can the city do to meet the needs of the aging population?
It was specific.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
So specifically for those that are aging and transportation. Yep.
See, once I can I can talk to the different seniors and they can guide us. Then definitely I can work on, because I have no experience in this one, but definitely I can talk to you guys, and definitely we can work together, and we can make some proposal. I can just
All right. Thank you. Colleen?
Thank you for the question. One of the things that I've talked with some different seniors in the area was the challenges they had in getting across the roads. One of the things that they've seen, they suggested some different areas with more pedestrian walks. That is a big thing for me, is making sure that the community and neighborhoods are walkable. So not only we need to make sure that we have, one of the things that they talked about, could we put more speed bumps in areas so that we slow traffic down? Could we redirect traffic so that it's out of the neighborhoods and into where those main roads? But again, it comes back to making sure we have that mass transit as well, so that they have the ability to get around, because the seniors and our most vulnerable populations generally use mass transit. Not all, I won't say that all of them do. But a lot of them are saying that there are issues around that. So we need to make sure that those are healthier environments so that they feel safe in that regards as well.
Thank you, Colleen. And Steve?
Thank you. That's an important question, is the demographics in London are definitely skewing older. With transit, the LTC has paratransit, which I, hear mixed reviews on. How can the city be involved in getting the LTC to step up their services to recognize that? It's a challenge, as I alluded to earlier in my conversation. With the design of our neighborhoods, and again, that was alluded to, we have to make it a more walkable environment. But again, go back to your question, transit specific, the challenge is the last mile to get from the bus stop to your home, quite frankly. So how do we address that? I think those strategies have to be married with technology, quite frankly, and microtransit. till we get more points A to B as opposed to bus to bus to bus, walk, walk, walk.
Thank you, Steve. That's awesome. I'm going to use one of these questions because it's with regard to environmental issues, and we haven't really gone in that direction yet. There was a question from Carla, and this is specifically at the rate of action that London is taking at the moment to fight climate change. Do you believe we will reach our goal to set out in the London Climate Emergency Plan? And what are some of the obstacles to that? So Colleen, can you start us off?
Sorry, I got the wrong one here.
That's okay.
Oh boy.
So this is a community question. It may not be, it's not one of the advanced, but it is around the Climate Action Committee, or the Climate Emergency Plan for London.
Yeah, the Climate Emergency Plan. I know, yeah, I do have it here. So sustainability, as I mentioned, is one of my main keys, focuses. To date, the climate emergency was declared and the Climate Action Plan was approved. However, I'm concerned that some of the current actions are not in accordance with that plan. So, for example, we saw the bus rapid transit project was delayed and the use of the funding has yet to be applied. We are looking at how we can use energy for transportation and being a significant factor in a climate crisis. We are supposedly on path for those emission reductions. However, with growth of the city and the fact that we are creating more congestion and stopping cars on a more regular basis and not focusing on improving transit, we will see those emissions rising. So we need to look at other ways. We need to address the active transportation. That's why we're suggesting cycling as well as walking and better mass transit, but also looking at the older buildings and the residential areas, making sure that they're upgraded and improved with retrofits. Our waste diversion programs is also part of that, so that we don't have methane going from our landfill sites, and also we all want to make sure that sewage infrastructure is addressed as well. And of course, keeping those tree planting projects going and education about how you can be better at climate action.
Thank you. Steve?
I think the specific examples of what we've embarked on, and I fully support. Number one, big one, is the electrifications of our diesel spewing or diesel using bus fleet, retrofit of our city facilities, arenas, offices, community centers, so that they're using less carbon emitting energy, making it less of a carbon footprint. Such things as parking lots. When we allow for extension of parking lot licenses, I think we should make it mandatory that they include charging stations so that the infrastructure for electrification of cars is supported and encouraged. And finally, flood mitigation. We can see the extreme weather that's coming to Canada, and London is not separate from that. The biggest impact on that is separation of our sewers into storm water and waste sewers, and I fully support that effort.
Thank you, Steve. Savarinder, the London Climate Emergency Plan, do you think that the city will reach its goal?
I can pass, but I can, as an environmental, I can definitely say that we can put more plants, and we can take care of the old plan as well. And we have, I seen a lot of 40, 50 years trees now they're going to remove, which is, it's not good for us. So I just gonna say we have to take care of the environment as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions in the room? Just want to check and see. Yep, and again, if you can ask the question, that would be awesome.
There's a new guy who hasn't spoken.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, great, thank you.
I'm a resident of Ward 8.
Ward 8, yep.
We have one beautiful green space here, and it's a Thames Valley Golf Course. It's almost 100 years old. Now, I'm asking the council how they're going to be able to protect that from the community. The developers would love to get their hands on that. I mean, 2 years ago, they closed a big green space over in River Road. So what's to say that they won't be the same?
Okay, so the question is how to preserve the Thames Valley Golf Course and make sure that it is not developed. So what will you do to protect that green space?
Thank you very much for your questions. I can just say that I'm agree with you because it's happened to in Ward 8 as well, because it's my neighborhood. They have, before they have school zone, but they moved to the houses there now. I'm agree with you. Personally, I, as a council, I definitely take care of this thing. We cannot save this kind of awareness with the builder, but definitely I agree with you.
Okay, great. Colleen will go. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. I think that's come back to one of the things that I was talking about, where we need to use our green spaces for different alternative activities. The Thames Valley Golf Course should definitely be something that should be more a public space, green space that is maintained, and we can look at using it for all these different events, outdoors activities, and how we can utilize that better for other activities as well in the city. There's plenty of sports going on. There's plenty of opportunities to just have community gatherings, so we need to better use those spaces that we already have.
Thank you. And Steve?
Thank you. Golf pays for golf. The city does not subsidize golf. River Road was losing money, and it was sucking resources from Fanshawe and Thames. In order to make the other two facilities, Fanshawe and Thames, healthier, that decision was made by council. I didn't support that at the time, quite frankly, because a number of factors. But anyway, here we are. We need to protect that green space. I will do everything. I don't see. I think there's support. I can never see that being developed in my term at council. That's for sure. But one of the ways we can do that is invest in the facilities there. There's a good clubhouse there, but it's quite frankly a little shabby. I have been in talks with our parks at doing a massive refurb on that as a potential for a community center that we currently do not have in Ward 8.
Thank you, Steve.
With that investment, I could see that keeping that place as a space as it is.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we can go back.
Thank you.
Oh.
So this is about,
Sorry.
I should.
The way they can protect it is you can put it as a heritage site, the same as what they've done in Oakville.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea.
A suggestion, make it a heritage site. So that's something for your consideration. Thank you. Yeah, learn from other cities.
This is, again, about transportation, but also indirectly about the policing. So policing, the police can't stop all manner of lootings. People walked through my house the other night and took my purse and my computer right from the front door to the back before it was dark at night. Oh my God. And the police were there 5 days later. Well, that's fine. But other people are suffering, losing their all their belongings. And and then you design this biking system where the police are also supposed to patrol the bikes. Maybe we should stop the bikes development until we have the training so that the bikes are doing what they're supposed to do. And I have stopped walking on the parkways for 8 years because the bikes are threatening.
So the question, yeah.
Do you not think that the word safety should not occasionally be discussing the safety of pedestrians against bicyclists?
Okay, so it's a question of,
these extensive walkways.
so just to clarify the question, it is a question about pedestrian safety.
It's about introducing bicycles without monitoring what they're doing, so they're encroaching on pedestrians and probably drivers. It's difficult to drive with bicycles. Every driver who goes near a bicycle is doing a different thing besides what they would be doing. I don't have a problem with
Okay.
that. But I do have a problem with the fact that safety is repeated over and over again, and not one person is talking about the danger of pedestrians from the bicycles.
Okay.
Bicyclists.
So pedestrian safety related to bicycles, and we will start with, now I'm out of order. Sorry, Steve was last. That means, yes, I think Sarvarinder, you go first. Although you just did, I don't know, I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Thank you very much for your questions. Definitely, I talked to a couple of days ago with the police department regarding the cycling, because the same issue in my area as well. Yeah, definitely we need some safety for our residential, and it's the same issue is happening in my area because couple of guys is in my yard, in the backyard, and all went through, and they just ran in a cycle. So again, same. I don't have experience in this one, but definitely we will talk together, and we can take proposal, whatever you guys said. Definitely we can take care of yourself. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to Steve and then Colleen. Okay.
Hi. Yeah, you know what? That's a challenging question, quite frankly. How do we protect pedestrians from cyclists and improve cycling behavior? I think we touched on it earlier this evening with enforcement and education. I think you raise a good point. You know, before any further bike path development should be made with that in mind, with a separation from pedestrian traffic and cyclists. Quick note on the police enforcement and response to 911 or to backyard theft, which we're all experiencing. I speak with the chief as regular about this. They're bringing a proposal for 52 more officers to council, which I fully support. I've been in 911. I've seen the center where I've seen 200 listed unanswered calls, which a lot of them refer to what you're talking about. With those added officers will be the question at budget time, how will that 911 response rate be improved?
Thank you, Steve. And Colleen?
Thank you again for that question. I know that one of the things that I would consider for this is you've got a couple different levels here. So with the police enforcement, yes, I've heard about the theft is increasing in this area and how we need to deal with those. So if we're going to help the police do their jobs and make sure that they can get through as many challenges that they can through the day, we also need to look at how can community groups help educate bicyclers and making sure that, so I think that those that are involved in bicycling that are trying to be safer and trying to respect precedent is not the issue. It's those who are outliers that are becoming it's more noticeable to see when someone's not doing what they should be doing to be respectful. So how can we bring Neighborhood Watch came up for one area is that we need to be better at our communities, connecting people within the communities so that they can feel that they can talk those issues and how to address it as a whole. So if it is required that more police to come to that area, then that needs to be something that we can go back to the services to get that. But also relying upon community groups to spread that education for our bicycle safety and pedestrian safety.
Thank you. So given the time, I'm going to ask each of our candidates to do a two-minute summary. So this is your chance, candidates, to say anything else that you would like to your Ward 8 constituents to know about what you stand for and issues that you maybe haven't spoken about. Steve, we'll start with you, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much again for coming out this evening. As I said before, London is a moment of change from a city to a large city, and with that comes many challenges. I believe I have the experience, both in the private sector and now in the public business, mixed with character, and I think you have to look at that as well. We know the challenges that we face now, but as we've seen with COVID, as someone once said, it's the unknown unknowns that we don't know will hit us in the next 4 years. I think you have to look at your city councillors that are looking for your support. Are they the people with the background and the character to meet those challenges that are with us today and what is unexpected that we could meet as a city down the road? My character traits, I believe, obviously with my experience, is compassion, empathy, drive, and curiosity. I like to hear new ideas, think of ways we can do differently, seek out ways that are done in other cities across North America for best practices to encourage looks at by city staff, and most of all, listen to my constituents. That is my best source of inspiration and direction. I hear from folks every day, and I enjoy that interaction. It's very important to me. Like we can see tonight, I'll continue to do regular town halls to get that feedback, and of course by phone, email, and at your door. So thank you for your consideration in allowing me to continue to be your ward councillor and your voice at City Hall.
Thank you, Steve. Sabarinder?
Thank you very much, guys. I'm not talking about my ward. I think it's all issue in all city now. But 2019, since COVID, I'm on my feet, and my organization always on the feet, and we helping each other. And I think we talked to different community leaders, and we serving meals from once the COVID started, and we still continue doing, and almost around 10,000 meals we serving every month. And we need to be a lot of changes in my city, which is I seen, but especially in my Ward 8 as well, which is a clean and green, you know, and transportation, communication, community programs, because we don't know each other, but we need to more connected each other. At least we can talk, and we can make our city best. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Colleen, final words.
So again, thank you to all the organizers and for all of you for attending, for your wonderful questions. I appreciate the opportunity to have to actually come out and meet more people in the communities. As I've been going around, I've been letting people know my background. I'm a Western grad as well as a Fanshawe grad, and I also have worked in the provincial government, so I understand some of the policies and processes that are going to be impacting our communities coming forward. I also look at the fact that I'm one person that likes to collaborate. I really like to hear different ideas and see how we can work through those issues to make sure that it's a win-win for all of that. I always look at social, economic, and balancing the environmental as well. So you'll see that I will talk about a lot of different issues and make sure that I can see how we can work all of those into all of that. So I would be very honored if you chose me as your Ward 8 councillor, and make sure, please feel free to come forward. I've already been bringing forward as many issues that have brought to my attention to all of you and to everyone that I've talked to on social media as well as in person. So thank you again for having me here today, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions. Remember, vote day starts October 24th and advances October 8th. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our candidates. Really appreciate your preparation. And thank you also to people who submitted questions and asked questions from the audience. It's really wonderful to kind of weave from your experiences and what the real life experience is in Ward 8 and the issues that are concerned to you. So reinforcing October 24th, you know, I figure if you're here, you're probably voted. You're voting. You're engaged. Encourage others. You know, this is one of the most pivotal moments, is the ability to influence what happens in our city, and you know, it's an opportunity. So please champion and inspire other people to vote, not just for City Council, but for the trustees for Board of Education. Thank you all for coming out on this last day of summer, National Tree Day, by the way. So hope you have a really lovely evening.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
In the family with addiction, the person with the addiction becomes front, center all the time.
Addiction and substance use affects all the layers of our society.
Everything was about trying to out him and fix him, and I was just done.
I always felt kind of different. I never felt the same as other people.
Join addictions counselor Dean Anderson for Invisible, Breaking Through the Stigma of Addiction, on Rogers TV.
Hi, everyone, my name is Dr. Mario Elia, and I'm the host of a new show here on Rogers TV that we're calling Keeping London Healthy with Dr. Mario. I'm a local family physician here in London, and I'm very excited to be working with Rogers TV on this new format, which will give us an opportunity to explore all sorts of topics related to medicine and health. So tune in Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. We'll see you then.